Hey, welcome to the Dark Romance panel. Thank you everyone for being here. We've got a great panel lineup today. My name's Sadie Kincaid. I write dark mafia and reverse harem why choose romance, and I'm going to let these wonderful ladies introduce themselves. So, Nikki.
Hello, I'm Nicci Harris. I write dark romance as well, predominantly mafia. I've got 10 books published and 9 of them are all in the same series. It didn't really take off for the first couple of 2, but then it went really well and now I'm a 6-figure author.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Nikki Rome. Woo!
Where was mine?
I paid them to do that. I am a USA Today bestselling author. I write dark and kinky romance, and I am also the owner of Smut Lovers, the conference.
I'm Kate, and I'm super nervous, just to throw that out there. I post in 20Books as Kate Myers, but I write dark romance as Luna Pierce. I have 16 plus books, lost count, top 100 Amazon selling author. And if you've seen my TikTok videos about TVP, no, you haven't. So, yeah.
What is TVP?
Oh, God.
Well, we can do it after.
Yeah.
You can tell me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So somebody just asked me this outside, actually, and it's our first question that we've got, is that what makes, so dark romance is a really huge genre at the moment. It's there's quite a lot of books in the top 100. What, in your opinion, makes, I'll start with you, Luna, what makes a romance dark, in your opinion?
I think there's such a scale, of the light end to the dark end. So it kind of depends. It seems to have reoccurring themes of violence. There's a lot of content warnings, triggers, usually jealous, possessive men.
I think it comes down to the characters as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You can have dark themes in a romance and it not be a dark romance.
Mm-hmm.
But if the leading characters are dark themselves, and I think that's kind of where you go, okay, this is dark romance. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think it's the morally gray stuff that we love to talk about, right? The questionable decisions they make, but they have reasons for it. Mm-hmm. I'm also a big, I like the redemption arc that you see in the dark romance books, right? So, we start here and we're really fucked up and we get a little better for her and then we fuck her up to make it all work out in the end. So, that's probably, I think, the biggest part that
Yeah, one of the things I said was that male characters in a dark romance can get away with apart from cheating, can get away with anything, can't they? As long as they, love the female character. Yeah. So what do you think are some of the major reader expectations for dark romance, or what have you found just in your writing and your reader groups and things like that are the major expectations? Nikki? Yeah.
So I think, if you're talking dark romance, your hero has to be quite dark. So he has to be morally grey, predominantly. She can as well, but that's just not the trend. It's usually he's the morally grey character. As Sadie said, he can get away with anything. He literally gets away with murder often. But he needs to soften for her. He needs to change for her. And by the end of it, there needs to be this kind of magnetism between the two of them where she's changed and her arc has changed her slightly and he's changed and softened for her. And I think that as long as you have those things, that's good. I think that's different if you're talking reverse harem. They don't have the same, I think we've spoken about the same kind of jealousy as that you do when it's MF. If it's MF, you have to have that possessive, jealousy, protective vibe. In RH, it's a bit different, isn't it? So,
there definitely is still the element of that. And sometimes there's conflict with the guys coming together, wanting to be in the relationship. Sometimes it's a friend dynamic that just go into it wanting to share somebody. So it kind of depends on the characters for sure.
I think some of it is similar to any other subgenre too, and it's a lot of what we've trained our readers to expect. I read a lot of the kinky stuff, so when it comes to my books in particular, that's what they're looking for. They want all the dark stuff, but they want to see the relationship expand on the kink side as well. My characters, because I write both Why Choose and MF, I have some of the jealousy elements, but a lot of times it's the external conflict they're all starting to work together towards solving whatever this external thing is that's trying to tear apart the group. And so I find that's what they really are drawn to.
And do readers still expect a happy ever after?
Absolutely.
Always.
Yeah.
You can't not.
Don't kill your hero.
Yeah. Unless it's like just for a chapter and you're like, JK.
Oh, just kidding.
Yeah.
I did that.
I have too.
I did that.
It
They love
pissed
that.
a lot of readers off though.
It was a cliffhanger though, not the end of the
Oh,
chapter.
yeah, mine was like in the
They
middle of
didn't
the
like
book.
me until the next book.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's all right. We'll be fine.
So, as I said before, dark romance is huge right now. Yeah, there's quite a lot of dark romance books in the top 100. What, for you, do you find are the hottest tropes, the hottest subgenres? Sorry,
Mafia?
Kate. No,
Mafia.
Mafia. it's
Yeah.
big,
Mafia.
Organized crime elements for sure, mafia. And then like getting into like tropes like forced proximity, forbidden
gap.
Rome. Yeah, age gaps, big. Yeah.
My people are usually kidnapping their girl.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
kidnapping's like a big
Stalkers.
theme.
Kidnapping stalkers is a huge one right
Yeah,
now.
the
Yeah.
psychos, you know,
Yeah.
that psycho vibe.
Yeah.
Really, truly unhinged humans.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
You know, you gotta, they've got to. There's got to be
Yeah.
some mental issues going on, real deep-seated issues. You
Yeah.
know,
And
clinical. sort
maybe
of.
it's not like a trope. Maybe it's like more of like a butter element. But like when somebody has harmed the female main character and they like seek him out, tie him up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
let her
Who
get
hurt
revenge.
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
revenge. I think
That's-
that's
yeah,
really
yeah.
common in a lot,
Yeah.
isn't it? That kind of
Yeah.
revenge trope of some kind.
Yeah.
And that can also be that massive climatic point that you were talking about
Yeah.
before. You know that.
Like grand
that
gesture.
grand gesture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go big or go home with the grand gestures.
Yeah.
Like the bigger the better.
Yep.
And I think readers live for that bit, don't they? When the antagonist, the villain finally gets, or the MC finally gets his revenge.
Yeah. And just
It's-
to be clear, the grand gestures in dark romance isn't necessarily like, here's a big fancy bouquet of roses and I'm going to get down on one knee and propose to you. Like, I have a character who literally found her stalker and chained him to a wall so she could kill him.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the grand gesture. It can still be dark,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to end, it doesn't always have to end super light and fluffy, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a decapitated head.
Yeah,
Here you
that's
go,
good.
honey.
Our
That's
grand
right.
gestures are gore and
They're into
murder.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like, oh,
Uh,
thanks.
Are there any things that you wouldn't? Any things that you wouldn't write, or anything that you're really keen to write in the dark room? Because obviously, as you said earlier, it covers such a wide range from very light grey to completely
Yeah.
black.
I don't really do on page like sexual assault. Like I'll touch on it, but like me personally, like
Yeah.
I just can't.
Yeah.
It's too close to home. So maybe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have in detail in one of my books. It's quite confronting. But I think the thing that I would love to write is I'd love to kill off a main character. I'll be honest, but that's because I'm crazy. But I'll never do it. So you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't.
because I can't. It's romance suicide.
It's gore for me. Personally, I can't write super, super gory scenes. Like, blood's fine, but anything past that, it's just, I can't.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
same.
fun. Right?
Same.
Get,
Or
let
like
me.
the
were both
organs
talking
are
about
hanging
that
out of
getting
the
really
body
dark,
thing.
weren't we?
No, I'm done there.
Yeah.
I'll help you out with those. You help me with the sex scenes.
Let's
and-
go
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So just touching on that thing about there's things that we want to write that we just know because of reader expectations that we can't write. How do you balance that as a writer then? How do you balance what you want to write as a writer and what your instinct tells you to write to what you know your readers want or what the genre expectations are?
Who do you want to go?
I'll go start with you, Kate.
So I use TikTok a lot to communicate with my audience, and I will literally ask, like, what do you guys want from, like, a dark romance? Like, and I give them kind of a general direction, and they'll give me a bunch of feedback, and, like, there's stuff in there that, like, I know, like, is off limits for me, but if it's maybe something I haven't thought about or thought that would be popular, like, I'm more than willing to take their advice and feedback because maintaining reader expectations is what's going to sell the book. So, yeah.
Personally, I'm a data junkie because I suck at it. So I do pay attention to things like trend reports like K-lytics and things like that. But the biggest piece of it is what I'm seeing in those reports aligning with what my readers are telling me. Because I've built a community specifically through smut lovers that I can turn to at any point and be like, hi, this is what's going on. And I can also see in reader groups when people are asking for recommendations, which I think is super valuable, not just the question of this is what I'm looking to read, but what people are recommending that they're currently reading. Because I think sometimes we see those as authors and we're like, oh, cool, they're looking for a recommendation. Let me stick my book in there. Yeah, that's great. Go ahead. But like, what are the comments? What are people looking for right now? Because I feel like that's really telling, just outside of my personal circle, like what's happening outside of it.
Yeah, and what they're continually recommending.
Right.
You know, it's like, why are they continually recommending these books? Like, what have they delivered?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not great at the balance sometimes because I genuinely like write from the heart, and a lot of times my guys will actually decide the direction that my book is going to go in. However, you know, there's certain things that you know that you can and cannot do, and you can take that risk. Sort of at the beginning, if you're just starting out, you don't want to take those kinds of risks. You want to write something which is really going to hit home and it's going to hit all the right tropes and it's going to give them exactly what they want. Later on, maybe you can start taking the risks and be like, but this is what I want to write, even if it's not taken the way. You know, even if it's not exactly what they want, it's what I want to write. So there is that balancing act, and I think that it's hard. But yeah, I try to do it, give both, but also give my story what it deserves.
Yeah. Be true to yourself.
Yeah.
For sure.
And in terms of then your writing process and how you've talked a bit there, Kate, about how you engage readers, but in part of that process, but what is your, if you could tell people, what is your process as a writer? Do you plot? Do you just wing it? Is it somewhere in between? What's your... Nikki, start.
I'm somewhere in the middle. So I usually start off with a plot, and then I usually have a beginning and an end, and I have like a lot of scenes in the middle that come to me, and they're super clear. You know, I'm very visual and I can see it all happening, and then it's about piecing it all together. But that's as far as the plotting goes. I use a thing called Plotter, which I find really useful. It usually starts off really good, and then I go completely off and do my own thing. That's because the characters change it. Sometimes they need more time to handle some trauma or something I've put them through, and I didn't realise they needed that until I'm in it with them. And then I give them that. I might give them extra chapters or whatever they need. So I'm somewhere in the middle between a plotter and a pantser.
I have no process at all.
I respect that.
I'm a total binge writer. I know this probably is not valuable to anybody unless you are as well. Like I have to be ready to write. Sometimes the ideas will be there for like a day or two. Really, it's not something I give much thought to. And then I just sit for like days on end and write a whole book in a week. I don't recommend it. It's not very healthy, but that's my process, I guess. The closest I could come to one.
Yeah. Mine's kind of a mix of both of those. I spend a lot of time in like the thinking process. Like I'll think on a book for a year. Like I'll have the idea and it's just like in there. But then when I go to sit down, like my last book was like 130,000 words and I wrote it in 28 days. I don't think I showered or ate or like existed, slept. It was terrible.
Also not healthy.
Do not recommend. That's why it's like I write a book a year.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, because the rest of the year I'm just like burnt out. But yeah.
Yeah. And what does your kind of day-to-day look like for writing then? Do you write, I know you've said you don't write every day, but what other kind of, I suppose, tasks do you do as a writer that's not always writing? Go on, Nikki. Yeah.
It's a bit tricky. I've got a 5-year-old. So for me, fitting my job in is literally fitting my job around being a full-time mum. So he goes into school full-time next year, which is going to completely change the game for me. But up until then, I've had to fit this entire job into looking after my son at the same time. So it really is like this puzzle thing for me, my job. I wake up and I'm on social media, I'm doing hours of social media, and then I'm spending time with my kid when he gets up, and then there's breaks in playtime and whatnot when I can fit other things in, writings at night on weekends. So, yeah.
For me, I've found that I'm the best writer at night when there's absolutely no distraction. So I save writing for after my kids are in bed. It's like, go to sleep, and then I'll just sit there and pound out a bunch of words. But I do find that I can usually handle admin tasks during the day. So that's when I spend most of my time there. It's hard to answer right now because a ton of my time is spent on Smut Lovers during the day. But it's the checking the ads and checking on the stuff my PA is doing in newsletters and all the things that we talk about doing. Really, that's the daytime stuff.
Yeah. I spend the majority of my time doing admin work. Like I hardly have time for the actual like writing aspect. And I am very protective of like my mental space when I write. That's why I write in such a short period of time and I neglect everything else. Like I get the bare minimum done. I try to like batch all my TikTok content. I don't do Facebook ads. Like TikTok's my main marketing, so it's like I try to stay up on that and like get the words in. But then outside of that, because I don't do that all year round, like it's still just admin work all the time. There's always emails, like foreign translation stuff, like people reaching out about stuff, like special edition boxes, like it's nonstop.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is there something that, because that's something that surprised me when I became a full-time writer, how little time I spend actually writing, because we do everything, don't we? Is there something that surprised you in particular that you thought, I didn't know I was going to do this, or something that you've become really good at that maybe you weren't great at?
I'm really controlling over my business. I like to do every aspect of it. So if I give anything out to sort of my PAs or anything like that, it's as rare as it can be. I want to control it all. So I'm loving doing my own covers now and things like that, which is great. It's pretty cool when your job means that you can search like hot guys, like for an hour. Like I get paid to look through 6-packs, pick the right one. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, the marketing aspect, now that I'm at this point in my career, it's 50% of the job at least is marketing and admin. I would say even higher than that. There's only about 30% writing going on. So yeah.
My cover artist lets me pick out my hot guys, so I still get to do that part. I think the biggest thing for me is I realized how much control I was willing to give up when it became too much on like who I was as a person. I've gotten really good at paying people to do things for me. I have very good, support in that manner, and it got to a point, I think, where it's a lot. It's too much to balance it all by yourself, if you ask me. It becomes to the point where you're making personal sacrifices, and I became a rage monster. So I found people to help, and I did it way earlier in my career than I thought I was going to.
Yeah. I also am a control freak about stuff, and I have a bachelor's in business and accounting, so like I have kind of the creative and the business side of things. So it's really hard for me to pass certain things over.
Yeah.
But I also know that like it's hurting my business not doing so. So the last year has been delegating a lot more so I can do more writing, but I'm still not at that point. Like I have an amazing like virtual assistant, but I need someone in person, like that's like showing up at my house and being like, this is what you need to be working on, and I'm going to do these things. Like I need someone to be able to think for me a little bit.
Yeah, I think I said that to Sadie actually once, didn't I? I was kind of like, I wish I had a manager. You know what I mean? Like it would just be awesome to have like another me and just be like, Nikki, you need to go do this. Or even just that conversation about something like a book box or anything where you kind of go, should I do this? And they go, yeah, you should. That's good for your career, and you don't have that person, do you? And that sucks a bit.
I do have a brand manager that I'm working with now, and she helps me make a lot more of those decisions, because making those decisions takes so much bandwidth that I'm like, well, crap, I can't write today because I had to think about this.
Yeah.
And so
It seriously puts you in a funk, doesn't it? Like when you get given those sorts of things and that's it, you're out for writing.
Yeah.
Just thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think, it takes different brain space to do these things. And I think that's one of the things that it confused me in the beginning. Like my writing brain is not my business brain. And I came from corporate America. Like I know how to run business. I thought it was the same. I thought I could apply the same principles to it, and I can't. And I think that was one of the regrets I had early on, is I kept trying to treat it all as the same thing, and it's two very different things for me.
And it can feel quite, for me anyway, quite lonely, but also so much responsibility, isn't it? Because every decision feels like it's yours, and even when you have like a good PA or a good even brand managers, it feels like ultimately the decision's yours.
Let's not forget we're writing some pretty dark shit.
Yeah.
And that takes a toll after a while on me personally. Like I sometimes need some space from the other things, so it's easy to fill with admin and whatnot.
Yeah. That's also why I binge write, because it hurts so much. Like I don't know if anyone has their Clifton strengths that they've done, but my number one is empathy, which is like terrible. So and I write like really broken.
It's my number 3. Should I be offended now that you think it's terrible?
Yeah, I personally hate it, because like I can feel everyone's energy in this room right now, along with mine, and like I feel what my characters feel, and I write from a lot of experience and trauma, so I'm reliving these things. But it's like also this journey I get to go on with my characters, and it's very like therapeutic and healing, but it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Like I'm crying as I'm writing these things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've gone home, or not gone home, gone to my room, curled up into a ball and sobbed, you know, because they do. We put them through some stuff, and for us to get that on the page means that we're going through that, and it's a lot. So, yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Because, yeah, it is really dark subjects that we deal with, and our characters live in our heads, don't they? So how do you deal with that? What's a good tip for people to switch off if they do write dark romance, or if they're looking to get into dark romance? How do you switch off from that? And
Want me to go? How do I switch off? Probably just go play with my son, you know, like you just have to take the downtime, and you have to cry, and you have to let yourself actually like experience and feel it and whatnot. And if you can speed write, like those scenes, that's probably going to give you the best result because you're feeling it. Otherwise, you're going to have to, if you have to pull away too much in those scenes, then you're not going to be able to deliver in the same way because you've now got that jarring of emotion. So, yeah.
I hug a goat. Like an actual goat. I own a farm.
I
And
love that. I want to hug a goat.
I
How
want
do we
to go.
compete with that?
also start a rent-a-goat job. But for real, like for me, I can't go to my kids immediately. I can go to my animals. But that's me. The admin work does give me that separation though, because like I said, for me, I mean, I sound like I have like multiple personalities, but yeah, I also have voices in my head. It's like as soon as it's done, then I will spend, and for me, it's like I'll spend a day or so doing admin and like slowly going back into my normal life because I'm writing so much in such a short period of time. The hardest part, I think, because I binge write like that, is it can be days on end or a week on end of just a very dark cloud covering you. And if I try to pull myself out of it, I can't get the book back to where I need it. So I've learned to just kind of give into it, and then I take the steps afterwards to do like regular business stuff and play around the house and do whatever before I try to do anything big. I don't plan anything major on a writing week, I've learned.
Yeah. My answer is not healthy. I just disassociate and get through it. And then I know that at the end, this character will have a happily ever after.
Yeah.
So it's like nice that at least they got that.
For me, I can't leave my characters in the middle of a really like conflict because it hurts, and they're on my mind, and I have to, even though I know I might have even written their happy ending, but I have to finish that chapter or that part of the story to get them through it. Yeah, because they just spend so much time in your head, don't they, our characters? Moving on to marketing then, the thing that we all love to do. Well, some of us do. Not me. What do you do to market? How do you find the best audience? What tips would you give to people? So this is a big question. What kind of tips would you give to newer writers who are looking to find that dark romance audience? So I'll start with you, Kate.
TikTok is my main marketing. Like I spend so much time on TikTok. I built a like totally organic style content on my TikTok. So I built a lot of like reader relationships. So that's like one big thing, which I guess is the plus to that empathy, is like I do create those like really great relationships with my readers. Also, I have like this really active Facebook group, and like I communicate with them. I'm very accessible to them. Like they also shout out my books all the time. So like those are things that help. Yeah, that's the gist of it.
I'm the oddball of the group because I'm not very good at TikTok. I primarily run my business off of ads, advertising, and specific targeted audiences now at this point. But when I was starting, I really honestly spent an entire year, probably even more than that, just building my reader audience, like pulling my people in. I'm a big fan of free promos and things. I gave away a shit ton of books to appeal to people, and they stuck. And I've got a decent sized backlist now. I just looked it up. It's like 40-something books. And so if I can get you in somewhere, you're going to read all my stuff. So it's worth it to me to spend the money on getting that person in via an ad or the time. But it's like, how do you keep the readership, right? Because you can get it, but how do you keep it? And that's, like what Luna was saying, it's the connection. Being accessible. My group is extremely interactive. And I mean, like, they just drop in my DMs anytime, and I respond because, like, they're my reader.
Yeah.
So.
Is that your Facebook group, Nikki?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do a bit of everything. So I've got some Facebook ads that I run AMS ads sometimes, and I'm still playing with those and learning that, and you're always learning because the algorithm itself is learning and changing. I do TikTok. We're very big on TikTok in my team. We've got multiple accounts. We take it really seriously. We look at all the data, and I mean, it's a massive game changer. Like it's bumped up indie authors and some unknown people straight up to the top 10, straight into the top 100, you know. So it is a big game changer. I also have a street team. It's pretty big, and we spend a lot of time nurturing my street team. I love my girls. They're my butcher girls. I call them my butcher brats. Hey, if they watch this, hey girls. They're just like, they can always access me. We have prizes. We do commissions. And, you know, it goes back and forth. So I give to them, hopefully, as much as they give back to me. Not just in prizes and stuff like that, but in my time, in creating community between them. Some of them are like now the best friends that they could ever have. Like, it's a safe space. We do mental health days. Like, it's, you know, really positive, and that's about nurturing those guys. And yeah.
If you could, just thinking about obviously how long it takes to build build that readership and build groups and things like that. Is there a piece of advice that you'd go back and give yourself, or is there any mistakes that you've made that you think you would, you know, change how you did things, particularly in relation to the dark romance genre? Nikki?
If we're talking about just things that I would change if I was just starting again, it would be to pick who the authority is on any subject. Like, there's a lot of people out there who are going to tell you they're the authority. They've written a book, they've done this, they're an editor for someone, whatever. But I think that you really need to sit down and be like, are you actually the authority on this subject? Is your opinion going to change my own? Because that's a big thing. And I feel like there's been a lot of cases, and I think you mentioned this as well, there's been a lot of cases where I've taken opinions and recommendations from people that were wrong for me. So I think that's the thing. Pick who the authority is, like really scrutinise that, because it might actually be you, if you know what I mean. So,
yeah.
I have screwed up a ton of stuff. But specifically for dark romance, I think it had more to do with like timing of things. My Dark King series was specifically written for TikTok because I knew, I'm a junkie. I'm a junkie of dark romance. I read all the things. I see all the videos. I knew exactly what they wanted. I wrote exactly what they wanted, completely forgetting my capacity to touch and do anything effective on TikTok. And so that series in particular does extremely well now, but it took a long time to gain the traction there, doing the things the way I do in my business. But by the time they came out, I was so burnt out. And when you're writing it, you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna learn it by the time it's ready. Nope. So.
Could you just tell us a bit more about that for people who might not understand? What do you mean by you just got the book from TikTok by watching TikTok? And
I think
were
you asking me?
Sorry, yeah.
If you spend enough time on TikTok, I mean, how many of you are like really, sorry, I'm a very interactive speaker. Okay, so like if you're in TikTok and you're watching your feed and you're a dark romance person, and I already see people nodding their heads, so you know what I'm saying, right? Like you can see exactly what people are posting about, what the reviews are about, what they're looking for. And I think when we were talking earlier about the trends piece of it, or the genres, like the popular subgenres and stuff, I can push a book out really freaking fast. So if there's a trend that's really heavy, specifically when I was writing this series, which it's still very popular, is, you know, a why choose dark mafia romance? Okay, let's throw an arranged marriage in there. Oh, they like kidnapping. We're gonna kidnap her, you know? And so it was really easy to listen to the readers that weren't even mine at that point and formulate what they were looking for in a book. And I'm very lucky in the fact that I read the subgenre and I love the subgenre. So when I found out it wasn't hard for me to write it because I love it too, you know? Yeah. I think it would be harder if I found a book that I didn't love the premise of what they were looking for and I still tried to write it. Yeah. That would fall flat.
Yeah. So it's a really good resource, isn't it, of Untapped? Yeah, and I know there was another talk recently about someone who'd gone into reader group, the big book groups, about looking for what people are looking for, and
Yeah, they're a great source of information. If you want to know, you literally just go into those reader groups. They will tell you exactly what they want. Like they'll tell you, I want this hero with this heroine, I want this to happen. Like they'll literally write the book for you. You just sit down and do it. You know, like there's so much information, so much data for you to help you create a book that they're actually going to want to read. So,
Yeah. One thing I wanted to piggyback on is like what we're saying is what works for us.
Yeah.
It is not a one size fit all. So take what you feel like resonates with you, leave the rest behind. Like we have different strategies. I literally have like a case study where I listened to so many people's advice on this duet that I wrote, and I hired the best of everybody for it, and it was my biggest flop, and it hurt so bad. And at that point, that's when I was like, I had significant burnout because I put so much into it, and it was my favorite book that I ever wrote, the closest one to like stuff that I've gone through. And then this book right here, I kind of said, fuck everything I've heard. I'm going to trust my gut. I'm going to write the book that I want. I'm going to do it on like a shoestring budget. I released it, and it's my bestseller. And it really validated that whole, like, you don't need necessarily all the bells and whistles.
Yep.
You can have them, that's cool, but it's not going to make your book do well.
Yep.
And even then, after that, I pivoted, I rebranded that book, and I changed some of like the packaging, and now it sells better. So you also can't stay attached to like certain things that you do. You have to be willing to like pivot and navigate. Like it's a sunk cost. If you love the cover, it costs you $1,000, get rid of it, get a different one. Like do something different.
And I think trusting your gut is a huge thing, isn't it? And
Yes.
as Nikki was saying before, there's so many experts or people who say they're experts, but nobody can write your story the way that you can.
Absolutely.
Nobody else. And you might have the same tropes, the same plot, but nobody will write the same book. Just really quickly wanted to touch on, because I know you guys have been talking about it, and people who might be newer writers or people who are suddenly, the bigger that you get as a writer, the more reviews you attract and the more negative reviews you attract. So just your advice in terms of reviews, particularly negative reviews or constructive reviews, and how to handle them like a champ.
Yeah. So you guys are, if you're writing dark romance, want to write dark romance, already have, you're going to cop some reviews, bad reviews, especially in dark romance, because you're writing about fucked up stuff and not everyone's going to like it. So you've just got to be prepared for that. It is hard. We have all bawled our eyes out because of reviews. They can be used in a positive way, and I'm sure that is going to get spoken about, or you can learn from them, which is what, you know, most of us will do. If you don't learn from your reviews, then that's silly. This is data for you to improve, you know. When you get to a certain point, you can stop listening to your 1 stars and your 2 stars because they're just not your reader. But you should always listen to your 3s, your 4s and your 5s, because they've liked your book enough to finish it. They've liked your book enough to give you a 3. They liked it. They're going to give you some advice on how to make it a 4 and a 5. So, but yeah, you've got to get that thick skin. Like, it's hard though. Yeah.
I have a decent-sized ARC team, and so obviously they're getting everything first, and those are I read all those reviews, because they give me the best feedback. They've written, I write everything in the same universe, so they know all the Easter eggs and all the things, and that's extremely valuable data to me. After that, I think we mentioned it earlier, I need some space between release and when I'm going to look at reviews again. Sometimes it's a couple weeks, sometimes it's months later. My 3-star ratings are my most effective ratings, it seems to be. When they hate me, but they give me 3 stars, they want to tell me why they hate me, that works. When they tell me they hate me and don't tell me why, I mean, I've been compared to salmonella poisoning at this point. So some of it is just laughable to me now. In the beginning, it was a lot harder. You want a way to respond or explain yourself or tell someone to fuck off, but you can't. And I think after a few years of doing it, I realized I just have to let it go. So.
I definitely check in like the first week just to make sure like my book wasn't shit. Like just to make sure it's doing okay. But then, yeah, I definitely distance myself. But then I often will go back and see like, did I miss something? Did I I think we talked about I love this book, but I wish.
Yeah.
Like, what did I leave out for
Yeah.
them? And like, can I deliver that in the next book?
Yeah.
And I think you should talk about what you ended up doing with that.
Yeah. So because I was writing a 6-book series, 7-book series about brothers, they all have their own journey. And at the end, as we were going through that, I've been getting information from reviews about what my readers have wanted. So I put all of that together and all of the gaps that I missed, not so much gap, not plot holes, but just things that they wanted that I didn't give them. Parts of the sparkly happily ever after stuff, right? So not the plot. I picked up all that stuff, I wish he'd done this, or I wish he had that. And I wrote an epilogue novella for my guys. So that was for my hardcore fans. And it went nuts. It's like I got thousands of new people in my reader group just to wait for this to be released. Like they just really wanted this. It's an entire novella just with smut and fluff and babies, and they just loved it because they've just read 6 full books about these boys. And I write big books, 95,000 word books. So there's that commitment there, and so I gave them that at the end, and they just loved it. So that's something you can do by listening to them and what they want and reading your reviews.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. We're going to go to some questions, but that was amazing. Just a round of applause for our panelists. Yeah, if you have a question, please use the microphone.
Okay, we have a pretty lively virtual audience, so I'm just going to ask a couple of questions, then go to the back line and come back, ask a couple more. Kel asks, are there things that are too much for dark romance? What are the no-nos?
That's a very long list.
Yeah, I think that lived experience is really important, and you need to make sure that you have lived experience, and we have missed a few conversations about that when it comes to trigger warnings and sensitivity readers. So we're very big on that, and I think that if you're writing about something where that question even needs to be asked, you should definitely get a sensitivity reader, and you should definitely make sure you've got your trigger warnings that are right there for people to see. So yeah.
And also, like, you have to have a happily ever after. You can't not. Like, that's a big one, non-negotiable.
Okay. The second question from Kel is, have there been any surprise elements that were insanely popular that surprised you?
I mean, let's just look at the popularity of, like, Haunting and Hunting Adeline. Like, I think that's, like, a set of books that people may have not thought would be as popular as they are, and they are, which is incredible. So...
Yeah, I mean, your hero, sometimes what surprises me is how far that hero can go, and you guys still love him. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I'm like, dude, really? I'm not sure, and I created him. So, and I think that sometimes throws me, but I mean, that's the fun part, isn't it? And you give them that redemption, and they're, at the end of it, they're, at least half decent guys, so.
Yeah, and something we talked about earlier, it doesn't necessarily fit this, but the hero thing.
Yeah.
Like we talked about, that is what sells the book.
Yeah, 100%.
Is the hero.
Yeah, if you're writing dark romance, it's him. It's all about him. If he doesn't hit the reader, they're not going to like that book. She can be average. We don't want her to be, but I'm just saying, no one really, she's fine, but he has to, Zaid is what sells Hunting Adeline. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
And I'm just going to say it because if you're coming from like the steamy contemporary world like I did, or romantic suspense genres into dark romance, you very oftentimes when we're talking about the sex, we're in her head. In dark romance, many times it's more important being in his head in many, many, many of those interactions. So it is a bit of a shift.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I think it's Nikki who mentioned in the beginning when you did your series, the first 2 did not kind of resonate. And so I'm curious how, at which point did you kind of, because sometimes people think, well, it didn't work, so I'm just going to move on to a new series. So what was that thought process for you deciding, like, I'm going to continue and actually make this work? Thank you.
So they love those books now. So it wasn't that there was anything so much wrong with the book. It was probably my marketing. It was probably that they were a slower burn and the reader didn't know me yet. And if the reader doesn't know me, they're not going to trust me. So when you're writing a slower burn book, you really have to get that commitment from them because you've got 50,000 books on your TBR. So if I don't catch you straight away. So I feel like what happened was when I got to my 3rd book and it took off, I'd earned my place in people, and they started to trust me, and they were like, okay, this is building, and we're going to get somewhere good. So I think that's what it was more than anything. And no, you don't give up. You know what I mean? Don't ever give up. You just got to keep going, keep trying, and yeah. Bronson did. Bronson smashed it out the park. Book 3, yeah.
I've noticed there's a trend as dark romance has grown and the popularization of these big Facebook reader groups has gained traction. there are some readers who are allowing the things that we romanticize in these dark books to bleed into their real life. Do you think that we as authors have a responsibility to set the expectation that fiction is fiction? And if so, how do you go about doing that?
Wow. Yeah, what do you think?
Yes.
To a degree, though.
I do. I mean, I think it goes back to content warnings.
Yeah.
And I know I'll harp on this all day long. It does not give my story away to tell them what to expect in a book. And I went from, in the beginning when I was writing grayer romance, it was like, read at your own risk, good luck. I am very particular about what I outline, about what is in there and what to get from there. And there is responsibility for us to tell them what's in our content, but there's also responsibility to the reader to understand that they're deciding to move forward past my content warning page.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the responsibilities on both. Like, the reader's got to take a little bit of that responsibility themselves as well, as long as they've been given the information. So if you give them the trigger warnings, then you kind of go, okay, now you're taking the next step. Now it's on you, you know? But you do something pretty interesting, don't you?
Yeah, so I, one of my like super fans turned friend turned kind of like assistant now, she goes through all of my books and pulls anything that could potentially be a trigger or content warning, stuff I wouldn't even think of. And she writes down exactly where it is on the page in the book. So in the front of my book, I have like a Dear Reader, which is a summary. And then I say, like, if you need to know specifically where this is located in the book, you can go to my website. It is spoiler, like you will see these things. But now I have so many readers reach out to me and they're like, thank you for doing that, because now I can read your book and still enjoy the experience, but just skip over that page. So, and I hate that I didn't do that sooner.
Yeah.
But I think
That's really brilliant, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
that means that you're going to get readers that potentially wouldn't have read your book.
Yeah.
And now just skip that trigger, of their own. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Kit says, for Nicci Harris, I love Plotter. Do you use a specific template, or do you just go for it with blank templates?
I use blank templates, yeah. And I kind of make my own as well. But again, I do genuinely feel like I only used it about 50% of the book. And then I just go off in, the boy runs it, Bronson runs it, or Max runs it from there. So, yeah.
And then Kel asks, what is the book length that you have found to be the sweet spot for all of you?
The what?
What is the what?
Book length, how many words, I guess, or pages?
Oh, length.
Oh, like.
I don't think there is one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just write till the story's done.
Yeah.
I primarily at this point write wide shoes, and those tend to be bigger. So they're coming at like 100,000 to 130, and I'm terrified that the book I'm working on now is going to be like 200,000 words. And it's due November 24th, and I've got about 50,000 words written, so it's fine. Everything's fine.
We're all going to be
fine.
okay.
Yeah. I always reference the little guy who's like sitting at the coffee table and everything's on fire, and he's like, it's fine. That is me at all times. But yeah, I think MF Dark Romance, like it's maybe like 80,000, honestly. Like if we had to put a number on it, like that's probably.
Mine are always quite big, like 95. I think my
Yeah.
smallest is a second in the duet, so you've already read 95,000, and I think it's 80. So, I'm giving you, like, that's massive. But that's me. That's not everyone, so,
Yeah.
Okay, we've got time for one more question. Sorry.
Yeah, have you ever gone back and re-edited or added to an already published book or series? And if you have, why? Or why not?
Yes, but it's not my dark romance. Like I have a PNR Academy Why Choose series that I wrote like 10 plus books ago, and it sells decent, but I wanted to bring it more on brand. So I read the reviews of what my readers were like, hey, what like was missing, and I went back and added some depth and re-edited it, and yeah, but I mean it's kind of applicable, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't. I can't stand to look at my book after I've read it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
ever. Like
I
I know
won't-
people are like, oh, I'll rest it. I'll go back to it. No, I will
Yeah.
never touch it again. But I have the benefit of the fact that I do write in the same world. So with everything being built in the same universe, if I'm receiving information from, let's say, reviewers or something, and they're like, oh, it would have been great to see this. Well, guess who's popping up in the next book? I mean, because everybody either works together, they're related, or they're fucking someone knows. So I have the ability to go back to my characters because of that, and so I don't necessarily feel the need to rewrite anything.
Yeah.
I do, I have, especially if we're just talking about editing. So some typos and things like that all the time.
Oh,
You know,
typos,
so you'll,
Yeah, for
so
sure.
you'll pick stuff up and you'll go back and do that. If you're talking about like full edits, once it's published, I don't touch any plot, you know. I won't change that. But I've just recently pulled Facing Us that I'm going to go through and just tweak it. It's my first book and it's not my best writing. So I'm tweaking a few tiny things. It will never be anything to do with the plot though, because people already have that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And thanks.